Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Polestar Pilates Hour. It is a wonderful day on the Southwind Retreat Center farm because I have with me a new friend and colleague in our path of movement exploration, authorship, education development, all of the above, Miss Karin Gurtner. So Karin, welcome to the webinar here at Polestar. Karin's background is been for the last couple decades plus, has been really exploring movement and starting off with just looking at fascial slings, and the people that she has taught for and worked with are all very well known and has continued to evolve her own practice. She's also a designer originally, which sort of has that creative edge that there's got to be something that has Karin's fingerprint on it as the designer of it. But she comes from very good stock in the education world and especially in the myofascial world, studying and working with slings and looking at the fascial planes and fascial movement, and then bringing her own movement. She also comes from a Pilates background. She studied in Australia with one of our dear Kimberly Garlick. Kimberly, if you hear this on a replay and your ears were burning over the last 2 days, hopefully you felt it was for good coming from Karin. She has great memories of that time in Australia and also very contributory, like all of us, the things that make us who we are, where we come from. So as far as Karin's background, she is the founder and educational director of Art in Motion. That's really what we're talking about today. That and also your authorship of a new book that's coming out. We'll give you a little more insight on that. And together with her dedicated team of international educators, they bring the slings myofascial training to professionals around the globe, as well as she loves to immerse herself in different cultures. She's traveled to many places around the world. She's not shy to go into remote areas and has facilitated training and retreats in many parts of the world regarding integral anatomy, body work, and things that she's also studying of psychology, and then just overall a masterful explanation and application of fascial movement science with others. And I think this is, we've had a fascial component in our webinars from the beginning. I'm such a huge advocate of it. And one of my favorite mentors in my life is Dr. Carol Davis. And Carol, of course, had really brought the myofascial awareness to me at a much deeper level when I was studying underneath her at the University of Miami. Since then, Elizabeth Jimenez was introduced to me about 16, 17 years ago, and she's the chief of staff for Polestar, but she is a certified John Barnes myofascial release therapist. And it just surrounds us now. And so my original partner, Elizabeth Larkham, has become incredibly involved. And we've also had guests on here with Wojciech from Zoga. So we're seeing this trend more and more. We're seeing a shift in the energy, and we know that new things are on the horizon. So I want to ask you first, just what are things that are exciting you right now in the myofascial world and movement world? What wakes you up in the morning?
Yeah, so first of all, Brent, thank you so much for inviting me, for hosting me, for this introduction, like literally hosting me on this beautiful property. It's been an absolute pleasure. So what wakes me up about fascia at the moment when I wake up, what invigorates me is the multidimensionality of possibilities we have when working with the fascial system deliberately. When I started this exploration, maybe 16 years ago, and then with slings myofascial training 14 years ago, I saw potential. But now, having worked with it deliberately for these years, it's like, how do I say it? The deeper I go, first of all, the more ignorance conscious I become, but also the more excited I become about the possibilities, because I see how they work for in movement when it's used deliberately, how vast the field of influence is.
Yeah. And it's
the
moving
body.
so fast now too.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what I loved what you mentioned, Karin, is the the potential of movement. I think sometimes, most of the times, like if we were trained in traditional movement science and kinesiology, it was based on a engineering model of physics, levers, fulcrums, cantilevers, pulleys, all of those kind of things. And I think that we're seeing, excuse me, we're seeing a big change in the definition of, there's still a biomechanical element to it, but when you think of that multi-directional, and we look at human movement in the past and the future, that we sort of go like, how did they do that movement? How is that even possible? Is where we start to realize, well, the possibility is endless. Talk a little bit, and I know this is, that was sort of a question that I didn't tell you I was going to ask you, but it's really exciting that that's what wakes you up in the morning about that work. And I think that the other thing you said that is so true for all of us is that the more we know, the more we know that we don't know as much as we thought we knew.
Yes.
And the more I know, the more I know I don't know anything, right? And the reverse of that is actually very dangerous, which is the less I know, the more I think I know.
Yes.
And so we want to be in the position where we're actually in the humbled state, as you mentioned. I really appreciate that, the humble state of the fact that the deeper we dive, the more potential knowledge is exposed to us that is almost endless. Like we're probably not going to get there in our lifetime. I think that's a reality. Even when I was doing my PhD, we were told like you're going to be the expert in the world expert in this much information with your doctorate degree. Like it is an atom of the potential knowledge, even though you are the one that knows the most about that at that time, because tomorrow somebody is going to evolve that work into a new state. And I think when we can accept the fact of that potential learning that you talked about, I think is very powerful. We should never think that we know what we know. I that's what drives me too. We should never think we know what we know. So let's talk a little bit about some projects that you've been working on before we jump into a book that you've been just polishing off now. So everybody's going to get their ears open. We can't tell you the title yet for legal reasons, but it's coming, and we're going to talk about the book because she's excited to share things that are going on. But I want to talk a little bit about Art in Motion. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about Art in Motion. That's your education curriculum, your certification. What are some of the things that are going to feed us into this discovery and work that you're doing with the new book?
Okay, but I cannot attach to one thing you said before when you were speaking about humility, because I do think, and maybe it sounds far for some people, but I know, because I know actually some who are here.
You're seeing some names on there.
Yes, I did. This will resonate, that if we use fascia-focused work in a deliberate manner, I do think we can cultivate what I call confident humility. And humility, I think it's one of the qualities I really want to cultivate in myself, comes from the word humus, ground. So it grounds us. And fascia, because it is a sensory organ, can support us in that groundedness.
We even call it a ground substance.
Right, yeah, right.
Right?
Exactly.
That's how we define fascia.
Exactly. So,
and the way that I sort of look at humility is teachable.
yes.
Right? So confidence doesn't have
practice.
any conflict with being teachable, right? We can be very confident in our skill. And even more so, I think of confidence as being tapped into source. So it's like when you are present, you are going to find an air of confidence, and it's combined with humility because that's being grounded, it's being present.
Yes.
So I love that definition.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about art in motion.
So I defined 12 fascial movement qualities. They are science-informed, experience-based, And then based on these qualities, I established a repertoire. It's a multidimensional repertoire, but I think that's important to understand. I didn't go, oh, here's a Pilates exercise. How do I make it more fascia focused? It was the other way around. Ooh, for more glide, what are the properties? What are the mechanics? And then what repertoire from the skill set that I have can I use or change to facilitate these qualities? And that created
using that movement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so now there is a multidimensional set of repertoire, and often in sequence, because I find many of the fascial movement qualities work best in sequence, not individual exercises, but that's still general. And then we do look at who are we teaching to? Is it the grandmother or is it the athlete? And then how can we now, for this particular property, say glide, what does the grandmother need as a woman of that age versus an athlete, maybe of a different
load, different tissue.
And then the exercises are adapted to suit them.
So when I when I hear you speaking, I hear, we've always talked about client focused or patient focused movement. And you're taking it down into tissue focused of saying the fascia itself. If we understand the fascial planes, if we understand the immense capacity of multi-directional fascial planes. Like I think sometimes we get stuck looking at a picture and we go, oh, there's this diagonal and there's this vertical and there's this horizontal. And it's like, well, that's nice, but it actually is so much more than that. And the research is showing that our organs and our vascular system and all these things are part of that. Yeah. And I like the idea of something being more organic, like a fascial focus of the individual, that you're able to bring attention. And we talk about designing exercises around the individual's needs or activities they choose to do that is pertinent to the person in front of us. The question I have is, do you look at this as being, we know that these 12 movement qualities are going to address 80% of human movement function? Or do you feel like there is, a more skilled way of using those 12 qualities to meet the specific needs of the individual? I don't know if that is clear or not, but it's like, basically when people learn, they want, okay, give me the recipe. Here's a recipe. Here's 12 movement qualities that you're going to learn. You put a human in front of them, and now it's a different story.
And Brent, feel free to kind of navigate me if I'm not on track with my answer here. So
there's no right or wrong.
I believe in diversity, and while I have made fascia focused movement my focus, I believe we need everything. We also need cardiovascular exercises. We need muscle focused exercises. We need strength training. We need speed. So in the fascia, with the fascia focused movement or the approach that we take, I think we can offer a lot, not just for the body, but for the mind, for spirit, for the heart. And so we can customize this to a group of people or individual clients. However, I don't believe it's covering everything someone needs. We need to collaborate, and we always encourage, like the professionals who train with us, and they encourage their clients, do other things too, add on, be as diverse as possible.
I'm glad you say that, because I think that's so important. And the research certainly shows us that we need to, load the myofascial tissue in different ways. We need heavy load, we need fast twitch load, we need speed, we need endurance, we need cardiovascular, we need lymphatic pump, we need all of those things. I was just listening to a special the other day about jumping on a trampoline and how it sort of triggers the myofascial system to enhance the lymphatic pump of that sort of free space, the hanging in the free space. It opens the channels, and so it's allowing that fascial or the fluid, that's the extracellular fluid, to move more healthily. And if you think about it, if we were trained as true bipedal human beings back, 2,000, 3,000 years ago, we probably were running and bouncing all the time, very vertical, very axial load. Let's go ahead.
Can I just
Go.
Because you just said bouncing and jumping ahead.
Yeah.
And can I talk about inner spring? Because
absolutely.
I think it would
Yeah. It's something I'm really interested in, so I would love to hear you.
And
talk
I
about
think
that.
it maybe I can answer even your previous question a bit more distinctly with this. So fascial movement qualities are properties inherent to fascia, and in the light of movement, therefore I call them fascial movement qualities. And elasticity is one of them. So muscles also have elasticity, say with titin, little molecule. Envision it on the level of the actin and myosin. And although that's elastic, its elastic storage capacity or contribution to the springy, bouncy movement is very small. Now, if we go to the muscle fascia, the endomysium, the paramysium, the epimysium, so usually you see them in anatomy books as wrappings around muscle fibers, bundles, the muscle, but they're more like a honeycomb network in which muscle fibers and bundles are slid into. They have also elasticity, but they're kind of medium springs. And then we have the big springs, which are the tendons. They are the powerful springs. So when we talk about the catapult mechanism with the kangaroo research they did, and then showing it in a human, the elastic capacity is also in the Achilles tendon, quadriceps tendon, and other dense fascial structures. That's what we are speaking about, these powerful tendinous springs. Now that's different to muscle power. So when I go running, barefoot running with muscle power, I wouldn't know. It's exhausting. Exactly right. And these are your free of charge. So energy cost, there's no energy cost to elastic spring and fascia. And it's trainable. It's a trainable quality. And there is excellent research on how to train it. And this is so exciting because you spoke about the diversity of people who do movement. And there's such a beautiful piece of research. It has been done with seniors, active seniors in their 70s. And they did a hopping training, very low dosage, 3 times a week, 40 seconds, building up to 70 seconds in one day, with breaks. So hop for 10 seconds, take a break, hop for 10 seconds, do that 4 times, and then build up to 7 times, do it 3 times a week. That's very low. None of them got injured. All of them increased their elastic storage capacity. So it's crimp. Basically, they developed a wave-like collagen pattern in their Achilles tendon in 11 weeks. And so it's like, wow, it's not limited, age or they were active, but they weren't athletes. So we can tailor the training, and sometimes it doesn't take a lot of deliberate fascial movement.
I love that.
Me too.
Yeah.
And just to add this on, so we do that in our classes as well. But then there's this phenomenon when people get into the rhythm, say, of bouncing exercises, they start to feel a little happier. Maybe they are reminded of, a useful memory. It's like, ooh, and it lifts your spirit. And then because you're focused on the activity, you're very present, and maybe your mind just becomes a little clearer. And because we teach it also in groups, there is this flavor of collective effervescence. When you move in sync with other people, you breathe in rhythm with other people, and the heart waves start to sync. So it's a holistic experience, that humble pursuit
Yeah.
of Achilles tendon spring.
Oh, I love it. I'm going to start
Yeah.
trying it myself. So rehabbing from my hips and things, it's like I've lost. I mean, I was a jumper, I was a dancer, I was a pole vaulter, and it's something that saddens me is I go to run across the street or something, a car coming, and I don't feel springy. It's a really sad thing for me. So I'm going to try that. I'm going to test that one out. And I'm going to start slow because I don't want to hurt myself.
Exactly.
But I love that feeling.
Smart.
And you brought up something. This goes into the next point of us is looking at this mind-body connection. And I personally have some thoughts on this from, the research that's out there regarding light and thinking of the tubules, of the fascial tubules, thinking of their, connectivity with not only the stationary cell, but all the way into the nuclei of that cell. And it doesn't surprise me that healthy fascia results in happiness, results in confidence, results in connectedness of being present and those kind of things. Talk a little bit about something you refer to as DASH. I know this gets you excited, so
It does.
I want them to hear a little bit about DASH.
The dash. So in the work and in my new book, I use the term body mind, and it's a common term. And then there is an invitation to see this common term with different eyes, and to look at the dash with different eyes. And believe it or not, it took me a few years to figure this out, and therefore I think I'm so excited about it. Because I looked at body mind first, I looked at the dash as a disconnect. I was like, body mind is really a unity, and by putting a dash, we say it's not, but we can connect it, and I wanted to remove the dash. And then...
Is it a bridge or is it a separator?
Haha, exactly. You see, it took me a few years. What you just got like this, it's a bridge.
Yeah.
And the bridge are feelings. And here I'm going to Antonio Damasio, a brilliant neuroscientist, and he, in many of his books, but I'm just having one in my mind where he has this beautiful quote. I'm paraphrasing because I can't exactly remember it, but it's feelings were and are the beginning of an adventure called consciousness. And he explains what I call everyday consciousness, so our consciousness right now in a wakeful state, from a body perspective of there is detecting and sensing in the body. So we have physical feelings. So that's kinesthesia, it's a fascial quality. And we share it with all living beings, like this amazing oak tree here outside. And the oak tree is reaching with its roots for the water source, we reach for the water. But then we also have a nervous system, so we have minding. And the feelings, so our physical sensations interpreted by the mind, are a physical feeling. Or our emotions are, they are not just mental, they are not just physical. Damasio calls them a hybrid. They are what connects body and mind, because there's this constant exchange, and feelings are therefore exactly, Brent, as you say, they are the bridge between body and mind and the gateway to consciousness.
Emotion.
Yes.
The emotions.
So the dash is the feeling. It represents feeling, body, feeling,
Ooh, I love
mind.
that. Where's my pen to write? I have to wait for your book to come out, don't I? Oh, that's brilliant. Because we talk about mind, body, spirit, and sometimes we don't really define spirit real well. Sometimes, when I think of defining spirit, I think, and again, they're all dashed in between them, right? But spirit being sort of the connectedness to humanity and being present, and the awareness. That's how I sort of think of the spiritual, right?
Yes.
And I think that the alignment of body and mind lead us to that place. What I find interesting in your comment is we've been trying to find a way to interface emotion that is not necessarily mindful and it is not necessarily physical, but it expresses in both. And when we talk about mindfulness, we're actually talking about things like thoughts do not define who we are. The thoughts come and go. What we do with the thoughts define who we are. And emotions are things that we observe about ourselves in situations that we had in life. And so it's like tying that together. So I'm going to ask you to go one step deeper on the dash and maybe give an example of where that emotional piece is connecting the body and mind. Can you give us an example of that? Because I think that'll help us a lot. It'll help me as well of sort of putting emotion and feelings into a place of how do we deal with that? Because we have so many of them, and sometimes we get caught in defining our abilities or our inabilities, our relationships. So many of those are tied up into our definition based on feelings that might not be true. It might not be our reality, but we make them our reality. Now, movement, it makes a lot of sense because we can say we've seen people who believe they couldn't move, and we create an experience for them, and then they can move. They can't live in that paradigm anymore once they start moving. And so their belief has to shift. Their feelings change. They often become happier because they realize, unless they're getting paid by the government to be disabled, that's a big dilemma they have. It's like, oh no, I'm better. I have to go back to work. I have to, that could be a dilemma. But in real human behavior, if they move better, they're going to be happier. Give me some examples that you've had in your work of that feeling body-mind connection.
And again, Brent, if I'm going here off track with my answer, navigate me back. But where I would like to go is first, because I had to think a lot about feeling. What does feeling encompass? And I think what's important to know is in research, there is no agreement what an emotion is.
And that's why I'm asking. Right. We've been trying to squeeze it in somewhere.
Right. So what I'm giving you now is my perspective, and I did a lot of reading about it and self-reflection and observation. So feeling to me encompasses two elements. One is physical feeling, physical sensation, hunger, thirst, heartbeat, heat, muscle effort, everything that Antonio Damasio calls it homeostatic feeling, also touch.
That makes sense.
And then there is emotion like anger, disgust, pleasure, fear, joy. And in everyday language we say feeling because we blend these two things. If I feel hungry, I have an emotion about it. If I'm emotional, I usually have a physical response. So they blend. In movement though, or not in movement per se, but in the fascial focused work that I do, I feel it's really valuable to distinguish because of what you just explained, especially pain. It's such a common example. So we know that if someone had long-standing back pain, for example, if it's really long-standing, very often the physical substance is no longer the problem, may it be the discs or muscles or fascia or nerves, but it's a holistic, it has become a holistic matter, and there might be fear. And as soon, and there's so much research about it, I can watch then someone else do the movement that once caused me pain, and I feel the pain, right? Yeah. So feeling can really lead us astray. And what I find really important in movement is learn to distinguish, is it a physical sensation or is it your emotion that
Good.
alerts you?
Yeah.
So when they do, for example, bridging and flex the spine, and flexion has caused pain, is to, kind of see if you can stop the reactiveness and kind of do it really gently. Go like, does fear arise? That's an emotion. Is the sensation alarming? And is it really the sensation, or is it the memory? So to become, and I have been training in it myself because I was not good at it, develop a very nuanced vocabulary. Exactly. Is it really fear, or do I feel a little bit of frustration? Because that's a different emotion to have. Are we dealing with your frustration, impatience, or are we dealing with your fear? And then we as teachers can apply a different strategy.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we talk, we teach our students in Polestar this idea of how thoughts and beliefs influence ability to participate in life, right? And in the research we can look at, and there's some really good research, Lorimer Moseley, David Butler, the list goes on and on and on, of the idea of and we've had him on our show. Adrian Lowe wrote a beautiful book on the storytelling of these different types of pain. And when we talk about centralized pain, there is no physical damage to tissue anymore. So the question is, what is triggering the sense of that pain? And it's often these emotions, particularly fear or history, as you mentioned. They talk about the parietal lobe being the historical part of the brain. So even if a little bit of stretch comes from the L4-L5 posterior tissues, there's no tissue damage there. There's no inflammation there even. But the tension itself goes to the brain, and the fear that's embedded from the previous injuries often will trigger the fear sense in the parietal lobe, and then the frontal lobe gets the message like, okay, we're going to protect you, because that's what pain does, right? Pain is no correlation with tissue damage. We've seen people come in with knives in their backs and they have no pain, and people with a hangnail that think they're going to die. Excuse me. So I love this idea of not only the language of differentiating between the centralized pain and the local tissue damage pain, but being able to use the language to talk about the emotion in a gentle and a kind way, and not in a demeaning way. It used to be in the medical field, we would demean the person of, this is not real pain. You're faking it. We would gaslight them, as we say today, right? We would tell them, that's not real pain. You got to get over it. And yet they're having real pain that's debilitating. And the gentleness that you just described of using language to differentiate at a level that they can process without being offended, they can process without being defensive in that sense, is powerful for them to reconnect that neural system of what's going on. I dig that. I like that a lot. That's really cool.
And the other way around too, sometimes when we are in a chronic state of stress, for example, it's hard to feel joy or pleasure or relaxation. And even me, just a few months ago, I had this really insightful moment where I was moving, and then I thought, why do I feel so indifferent? That's kind of not good. And then I didn't pause the movement, but I kind of paused my, certainty. Oh, I'm indifferent. I was like, no. I'm relaxed. Oh, that's what relaxed feels like, right? I'm actually not indifferent, but so we kind of also sometimes miss opportunities to feel really wonderful feelings. And I feel movement and the kind of body-minded mindful movement that we do is such an opportunity to reconnect to joy and pleasure and the more subtle feelings rather than the big
Yeah.
excitement.
You talk about just this week, actually Tuesday morning. I woke up and I was, having unusual stiffness and pain. And I have a new bike in Miami that I love my bike. People have seen me on some of my clips on Instagram on my bike. And I put some India Irie music in my earbuds. And the song was I Am Light. And I start riding my bike. And I'm just like crying riding my bike. The people are looking at me like, what is wrong with that guy? But, it was pure joy. And I could think of what I was feeling, right? I was feeling the moisture in the air. It was cool for Miami. I had a breeze. I was using my own muscles to propel me through space. And I'm being reminded that I am light. It was gorgeous.
Beautiful.
And I felt good the whole day. I felt good the entire day. And I often wonder, like, when we talk about the pathologies that we have, the injuries, the joint replacements, the surgeries, that history, is that when we create those experiences, it seems to miraculously shift the whole energy of the body and the function of the body. Like I walked all day as if I didn't have stenosis. And I treated patients for 4 hours and my hands didn't hurt. And all the things that I expected did not happen, I think, because of that moment. And I find that the more frequently I can visit that place that you're talking about, how do we help our clients visit that place and find that joy and that peace and that relaxation that comes from that miraculous connectivity of our tissue and our being. That's beautiful.
And can I just add something onto this, Brent? Because
Yeah.
I think what you just said is at the core of my motivation. Because that to me is, movement that benefits life. That benefits life and life quality. These moments of reconnection, of alignment. And then when you were speaking, I was thinking when we are in that state, we also have more frequent moments of positivity, resonance.
Yeah.
That state of when my joy and your joy becomes our joy.
Yeah. And we could feel that. We could feel that even in when we were opening the new studio. And so there was the excitement of the new studio as well. And then me feeling good and others feeling better and other people having other major problems but feeling good together. Like you could see the ripple effect of that connectivity, not just in ourselves, but in the group setting and where we're at. And even now, I mean, I hope you're feeling some of the things that Karin and I are feeling. We got time for like one or two more quick topics.
Okay.
And we do have a question on the floor. This is coming from Diana Rowe. And she says, could Karin show a clip of her sling movements or perform a 1 to 2 minute movement presentation? I think that'd be an awesome idea. I'm gonna say no today, but if you had a video or something like that you'd want to share,
Absolutely.
you could give that to Melissa and we can put it in the
I will.
post-production for Diane. I think that would be great. I don't think we have the space here or the setup or your dress might come up or something. Who knows? I don't want that on camera. We don't want to get in trouble with that. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about your book.
Kimberly Garlic here.
Ah, look, Kimberly's there.
Wow.
See, we were
Kimberly.
talking about you, Kimberly. Your ears must have been burning. We both have so much love for you and just want to do a shout out and tell you how much we love you.
And I told you I will be forever grateful to you that you made me fall in love with Pilates. So thank you, Kimberly.
And Kimberly has her own stories about how movement has improved her life. So beautiful stories. All right. Crying's good, Kimberly. It's okay. It's an emotion. It's a Polestar emotion. There's not a Polestar event that we don't shed a tear or two, usually because of joy and love, and that's a good way to express that emotion. I want to go into your book. I want you to tell us a little bit about what we can expect. You know, we don't know the title of it. That's the cliffhanger. It's coming. If you're interested, you could let her know with her connections that Melissa will send out to you in the post-production. But tell us a little bit about the book.
So the book is technically a new edition of my Slings Essentials book. However, I have rewritten the whole book, and it feels to me it's new.
It's a whole new project.
It's a whole new project. Yeah. And what I feel I have captured better than before is the holistic nature of the work. And then, so the framework is really clear. And then an explanation of these 12 fascial movement qualities, a theory part in which the science-informed part, I feel I captured better. It's more distinct, it's clear, it's immediately, I feel, relevant for professionals who are interested in fascia-focused movement. So what I'm aiming to do is offer skills and a guide. So therefore there is to every of the 12 qualities is a practice or practical section that gives very tangible tools. So make it as clear as possible. And my hope with the book is that I can offer something to you who are interested in fascia as a medium to tap into your human potential in a different way, or guide your clients in this way and really make the most of that human experience really for as long as we can. And so, you know, this is my humble pursuit with this work and this book. And yeah, I think it's clearer, it's more nuanced, the tools are more tangible, and I hope they serve as a guide.
I'm sure they will. I'm looking at some of the comments coming in, and they're very kind. Julia Eberly said, so grateful for being a student of both Polestar and Art of Motion and Slings in Motion trainings, and my clients are even more thankful. So beautiful, beautiful combination. And the thing is we're just getting together for the first time. Mm-hmm. This is our first union between Karin and myself, and so we've really enjoyed the last 24 hours of getting to know each other and having her as our guest here at the Southwind Retreat Center in the farm at home. And then I see something from Liz. Liz said, love your work, Karin. You changed the way I move and share with others. Liz from New Zealand.
Oh,
lots
thank
of love
you,
there.
Liz.
Yeah. So as we look at things moving forward, where do you see the fascial and movement world going? I mean, there's a lot of people pushing in it. There's a lot of people, you know, you're going somewhere pretty soon to go meet with some greats to talk about better definitions. Maybe share a little bit about that. Like where do you see us going?
Yeah, it's very exciting. What Brent, what you just mentioned is this is one piece, but I think it's these individual pieces that assemble to a more coherent puzzle. So I will be going to Munich in November to meet with Robert Schleip and with Katja Bartsch, and we have
lucky you.
Oh, very lucky.
No, Robert is the one that gave me my tensegrity model as a gift. It's somewhere around here.
And then some spring models. Yeah, yes. Robert is absolutely wonderful, and so is Katja. And for 3 days we will be brainstorming for a fascia-focused movement vocabulary, because speaking a language, a shared language, is so important.
And it's getting tough. And I've had like 4 or 5 sort of fascial leaders in movement, and they all use a little different nomenclature and vocabulary. So I think that's essential and can be very beneficial to us. Other things that you see in the near future as far as, you know, your work?
You know, Brent, for me, the what I also what I aim to do with the new book and also with the work is to make it even more inclusive. So the umbrella term that I created for Sling's myofascial training is resource-oriented integrative movement. And with integrative, I not only mean holistic, I mean the work. I invite professionals to integrate it into their work. Yeah. To say for a Pilates teacher, like, oh, for this client, I maybe need this fascia-focused exercise sequence, like use it as a tool. So be integrative in its workings, but also integrate itself with other excellent modalities. And for me personally, I'm very interested about somatic psychology. So I'm working more with practitioners from the field of psychology, because fascia is our largest sensory organ and it holds enormous potential for that holistic well-being. So that's where I will be taking the work, but then some of my educators take it more into the field of, athletics, of working with women during pregnancy and post-pregnancy. So the work hopefully will like tensegrity expand, and I take it in one direction, but I have a team and they take it into other directions.
That's great. I like to, because we've talked a lot about this, and you and I are sort of in pretty similar places in our career in, releasing a book that is diverse enough to be able to go into different professions and different types of movement practitioners. Our goal is to be able to influence movement experiences, movement learning, movement teaching at a much higher level, a much more refined level. I often refer to the difference between quantitative and qualitative movement. And, a word that keeps coming up for us, and we have to be careful how we use it, but alignment, and getting away from any kind of static alignment, thinking more of alignment of body, mind, spirit alignment, and looking at how something I learned from Eric Franklin years ago was that ideal alignment is when your body parts come as close to the central axis as structure permits. Mm-hmm. And I remember that was like 20 plus years ago, but it was giving us permission to consider somebody's abilities and their structure, variance to be considered aligned. And that alignment is much more about the joy felt of being connected between body, mind, and spirit. And that when we create these positive movement experiences for individuals, they're much more likely to find the joy. They're much more likely to find the peace. And we see that over and over and over again. And one thing I'm going to share with you, and I'd love to hear your comments on this. I noticed probably 25 years ago, I had a group of women who hired me to teach them a Pilates reformer class 2-3 times a week. We did it for like 5 years. And it was a special class. I'll preface it by that. But it was definitely the wealthiest women in like South Miami. And by the end of those 5 years, and I still keep in touch with some of them, major changes happened in their lives. Now, I truly was just teaching Pilates. Like, I wasn't in this level that we're discussing now. I was teaching Pilates. And, but we started noticing major behavior changes. Like, I heard in the hallway, yeah, I fired all my nannies. I want to raise my own kids. Or, I'm getting divorced. I got married for the wrong reason, and I'm making my own choice. I want to be a musician. One of them became a yoga instructor. 2 of them took out their breast implants because they didn't want foreign bodies in their own body. Just like these very self-aware, self-driven, conscious decisions that they were finding alignment with themselves. I would love to hear you talk just in this last few minutes how you see your work tying into that definition of alignment, of self-discovery. We're not telling people what they need to, we're not that. That's the higher powers, the Akashic field, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it. We're bringing them in alignment with themselves to do that. What's your experience with that?
So the observation you made with these women you were teaching, that's an observation we also kept making. I did it, the people I work with, and sometimes it's really small, but it's big when suddenly a woman shows up and she's wearing colorful clothes. I was like, no, I want to be seen. I was like, it's not just a blouse. And what I feel, when you were speaking, where I went in alignment, I call it essential self. It's actually not by me. I'm inspired by Marta Beck, but many use it in different ways. And I think it's this alignment. It's when I'm in tune, or I'm getting in touch again with my deepest inner truth. That kind of integrity is like, what is my body? What is my body like? Do I need these breast implants? Maybe not anymore. Then I did, but no longer. When the thoughts become generous and kind, or I can notice my own, jealousies or envies without judgment. When feeling becomes an experience and not something like, I should be really happy now. I should be really proud. I'm sitting here with Brent Anderson, but I'm feeling it. And the spirit as well, when I have a felt sense of shared humanity, not just like, oh, it's good to be just. That is alignment, and I'll call it the essential self. And I think it's very closely aligned with alignment. And I do feel that's where that's the purpose of the work. That's the real purpose of the work. Then we do movements, and they are a medium to get there, or come closer. Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to say any more than that. I think this is a perfect place for us to finish this wonderful interview with Karin Gurtner. You are wonderful. We appreciate your contributions to the world. Looking forward to your book. At Polestar, our vision, our purpose is to bring the world physical, emotional, and spiritual alignment. That's what we do, and I feel like you fit in so amazingly well with that mission that you have. I love when I find somebody who, we come together and we realize how aligned we are, using the word aligned, how connected we are, and in this journey to make the world a better place and to bring more kindness and awareness and compassion.
Yes.
So we want to thank you all, and I thank Karin for being with us today. Thank you all for joining us always. We hope that you tell friends, because this is how, this is free. We don't make any money off of the webinar. It's something that we want to give. It's something we want to share. We want the world to be more aware. We want to learn how to move better. We want to learn how to teach better. This is our time, and it's time for the world. We've got a lot of people to share it with. There's, I forget, 7 billion people or 5.6 billion, I don't know, but we've got a lot of people that need this movement, and we need peace, we need awareness, we need alignment, and we are the vessels, we are the beacons, we're the light. And at Polestar, we love to think that North Star, that guiding star, brings light into a lot of people's lives. So thank you for doing that out in the communities. We have lots of exciting things coming up in the new year, so keep your eyes posted. We'll send you a lot of the things that Karin talked about in the post-production, and some links, and hopefully get a video clip or two that can show the beauty of her work. In the meantime, we just want to extend our love to those that were hit by these horrible storms, those that have been involved in the wars that are out there, and some of the terror in the world. taking place. I won't get political on this. I just want you to know that we have compassion for those that are suffering. And any way that we can participate, that we can help, that we can financially contribute, even our prayers and our meditations do make a difference. And we hope that collectively we will be more conscious as humans in our communities and around the world. With that, we'll finish by saying, please be kind and have a wonderful weekend. We love you.